You've got to pay super duper extra attention if you are not making progress. And the major lesson here is to be sure you rule out the most common and obvious reasons for plateaus before making any assumptions. You may be simply eating more than you thought you were. And the plateau breaking lesson that naturally follows is that if you've been guesstimating food portions, it's time to get serious about your calorie and macronutrient numbers.
Welcome back to the Legendary Life Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Rice, health expert and coach to entrepreneurs, executives, and other high-performing professionals. The episode you're listening to today is part of my coaching course that I decided to release exclusively for a limited time only on my podcast, just so you can have a sneak peek behind what I really teach inside my coaching course. And today's lesson, it's going to be a great one. It's going to be about troubleshooting fat loss plateaus. So let's say you've been losing fat and feeling great, but then you hit a plateau. What does that mean? The progress stops. What do you do? There's a number of things you can do, but in my 23 years of experience of working with clients and dealing with this frequently, I've found that some things work better than others. So you're going to learn my best strategies. You're going to learn what plateaus are, why they happen, when they happen, how to break through them. So if you're interested in finally breaking through a plateau you've been in, you are in the right place. Make sure you take some notes because this is going to be a deep dive. Enjoy.
First thing I want to just hit you with is when you're getting results and things start to slow down, especially in the areas that you want it most, you may realize that you hit a plateau. And so many people think there's something wrong. Maybe this is as far as they can go with fat loss. Maybe it's their age, slow metabolism, hormones, premenopause, postmenopause, low T, the list goes on. Gut bacteria dysbiosis. Look, the list is endless. And it's normal to be frustrated and have these types of doubts when progress stops coming. But a lot of it is not physiology. A lot of it is psychological as well. We're going to talk about the differences here. And when you're stuck, it's really important to redouble your commitment to stay focused on your goal and to be positive. That's the number one strategy. You can't let a plateau take you off your game. And if you let this happen, you are being an average person. And I know you're not average, you're legendary. So don't act like an average person who freaks out just because you stop getting results. Now, it's okay to not be happy about it. You shouldn't say, oh, fantastic, it's a plateau. But at the same time, it shouldn't break your confidence. And if it does, you've got a mindset issue and something that you need to overcome. And many people quit when they stall because they don't understand the reasons why plateaus happen and they don't understand the strategies that they can use to break through and reach to the next level. And the good news is we're going to go over that stuff right now. The bad news is that plateaus are common. In fact, you should expect them. I've been in a fat loss phase myself. I hit a plateau. I hit several plateaus, okay? And we're going to talk about I'll share my what happened with me, and by the way, I follow my own advice there. I don't freak out. I don't go, oh no, I'm not losing fat. I'm gonna just give up. That is not what I did. I said, oh yeah, okay, definitely need to change what I'm doing. So anyway, if you understand how plateaus are a normal part of the way your body adapts, it won't bother you so much. Okay, so again, expect plateaus. Don't say, well, it might happen to me. No, it definitely will happen to you. I promise it will happen. Okay? Listen to me again. I promise it will happen. 100% it will happen to you at some point. But when you understand what we're going to go over today, you'll simply make the right adjustment and get back to work and be back on target. So no bitching or whining or crying or giving up and throwing your arms up to the sky and asking God, why? When the plateau happens, just say, oh, okay. All right, so I'm not making results. Okay. So let's look at why progress stalls in the first place. There is the snacksident problem. So you're following the program strictly, and guess what? You're losing fat, you feel better, your clothes fit better. Then something happens and suddenly you're off the fat loss wagon. Maybe there was birthday cake at the office, your partner left you, your boss reprimanded you, you went out to lunch with your coworkers, you got sick. I got sick recently, actually twice, once with dengue fever, and then I got bad diarrhea for like 4 days. And it took me off my game. So someone in your family might get sick, or maybe you had an emergency at work. Before you know it, you had an accident, right? Which can start as a cheat, but can quickly mushroom into a full-on binge. And, a little bit of the fat comes back. Not a problem. If it crept up on you without really paying attention, or that's normal, okay? And the thing that I want you to avoid is the shame. Shame, by the way, is when you blame the core of who you are. Like, I am a failure. Instead of saying, oh, I didn't do the right thing. So shame is when you're the problem, like deep down inside, you're just a flawed person, which, all of us are. So I don't know what the big deal is, but shame is when you really get into it. Like, gosh, I fell off again. I am such a loser. Instead of saying, oh, I really kind of went off the end there, went a little crazy there. I need to get back on track. So you're dissociating your behavior from who you actually are. And feeling like a failure and ditching your diet and falling back into your old patterns is what happens to so many people. But that's how you fail. In other words, you give up. And in case you're wondering, one treat or a cheat meal won't be the unraveling of all your hard work. Okay. In fact, it doesn't even make a difference. If you just get back on track right away, it really doesn't make a difference. I mean, in my fat loss, I don't even think about this stuff. I'm at the point where I just, I kind of go with the flow. I went off my diet for a whole week because after coming back from dengue fever, I was having like chronic constipation. I know more than probably what you wanted to hear, but I was just like, I got sick of it. So I went off my diet until my gut started, my gut health started improving. And then I went back on track and started losing fat again. It just wasn't any big deal. You just don't stress about it. So with this accident, we're not talking about a once in a while indulgence or even a day after Thanksgiving, all right, or a hangover. We're talking about behavior that causes you to throw up your hands in the air and say, forget the diet, portion control, workouts, going to bed early, falling back into the unhealthy habits that you're trying to get away from in the first place. So why does this keep happening? Big part of this is people numb themselves with food. And if you were wondering, like, well, Ted, how can you stay on track with everything? And how are you able to not get so triggered by lack of progress? It's because my life is pretty damn good. And it's not because it ended up that way. If you know anything about my life, I've had many tragedies than at least most people in the Western world will ever have in their life. But I've worked very hard to step up and sort through the issues that were causing me to use drugs or to smoke marijuana every day or to go out binge drinking on the weekend, or when I got in my 30s to overeat ice cream and other foods. So if you're numbing yourself and you have underlying issues, which we're going to talk about a little bit later when we talk about deep health in the program, understand that if you've got an issue with your relationship with your partner, if you've got an issue at work, if you're in the wrong work, if your boss is one of those horrible bosses that they make comedy movies out of, and you just know that you're in a path or on a path, a career path that just isn't right for you, or some other thing like that, or even maybe a trauma that happened to you, or a divorce, or anything like that. Something that, and maybe you're not dating, or maybe you're, whatever the situation is, if you're not taking care of that area of your life, you may turn to food or alcohol or a number of things to try to solve it. And the problem is when you eat, it makes you feel better. But when the afterglow of the Haagen-Dazs ice cream bar wears off, you still have that problem with your relationships or with your job or with whatever it is. So you must step up and start to take small steps at the very least towards, towards solving that area of your life. And if you're not willing to do that, you will fail. I'll just tell you that right now. So I just wanted to present this. If you have areas of your life that are causing you to turn to food or alcohol or binge watching TV or whatever it is, or even exercise, by the way, some people get too crazy with exercise because they're trying to escape the issue in their life, but none of it solves a problem. You must step up and solve that problem. Okay? When you're in balance, you're going to be good. You'll eat to feel good. And if you want a treat, you'll eat it. I eat, my flourless chocolate cake. I'll eat the Thai coconut ice cream. I enjoy it. And then I go back on track and I fit it into my macros. I never stress about this stuff. It's because I'm not going to say I'm stepping up in every single area of my life, but I'm stepping up enough to where I feel good about who I am and what I'm doing. And it wasn't always that way. Again, if you know my story, I've had to overcome a lot. And so we'll have a specific lesson for the overeating that will talk about the numbing and or destructive behaviors that make us fat. But for right now, think about it. And on part 2, we're going to go over solutions for the plateau so you can finally achieve the body you want. So let's go into, some of the reasons here. So the enjoying your life too much problem. So let me tell you a story. I had a client named Heather that was super happy when she joined the program. She was excited about the workouts and nutrition plan, wanted to get started right away. So when it was time for her to report her progress at the end of the week, I didn't hear from her. Then I messaged her via app and couldn't get a response for days until she got back to me and said she couldn't do week 1 because she went fine dining a few times and she was about to go on a work trip for several days. And what I said was, that's not your problem. Okay, that's not a problem. In fact, this is what you do in life. Things happen and you need to be able to navigate them. And I can help you with that. That's what I do in the coaching program. But she said she was working really hard to have a certain lifestyle and just wasn't ready to give that up for getting lean. I told her she didn't need to have an all or nothing mentality. You could do something every day. We could find balance in the nutrition program so she could eat the foods that she still wanted or have those indulgent dinners. But she continued not to do she continued not to follow the program. She just went running a couple times. She was on a 1,200 calorie food plan, but she wasn't tracking her food. So what I'm telling you is that you've got to understand that life is going to happen and there's a way to make it all work for you, no matter where you're at. Okay. Because you don't want to be like this person because what happened was she quit the program. She paid for it and she quit. And she said, she needed to wait until things slowed down. That is not how it works. And she's never going to get results. And she probably feels terrible about giving up instead of stepping up and working together with me rather, so that we could find a solution. Okay, what are you willing to do? What can you do right now? What's a step that we can take right now? Okay, well, let's do this. Let's track protein intake. Let's do 15-minute workouts. I mean, I will work with you. No matter what your lifestyle is, I will work with you. There is a way to get better results. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to get amazing results working out 15 minutes 3 times a week and tracking sometimes, but not tracking. You gotta put in some effort here, but you can make surprising results on less effort than we think. It just takes a little upfront effort. In other words, instead of taking responsibility for her actions and learn how to stay in shape while she was busy because her lifestyle wasn't going to change anytime soon, she decided to blame the timing. My life is always busy. I'm always busy. I work long hours every single day. I'm not out having a good time. I just post the times that I do have a good time on Instagram and Facebook. So don't be that person. Take responsibility for what is not working and move on. Life will always be hectic, so it's up to us to make it work. And once you accept that approach, things get easier. So let's talk about the I lost my motivation problem. So the key to weight loss motivation is similar to the amount of fuel in a car. You don't need the motivation tank to be full to drive. You just need to prevent it from running on empty. I tell people not to waste precious time and energy on staying highly motivated because it has a natural rhythm. Sometimes I'm motivated, sometimes I'm not motivated. And so when you need an instant dose of weight loss motivation, ask these questions. If I stop my program, how will I feel in 6 months or a year from now? If I stop my program, what will my health be like? If I stop my program, how will my work, my relationships, and family be affected? Sometimes you just need a reminder of why you joined this program, why it's time for you to handle this area once and for all. And one last thing before we move on is that it happens to the best of us. We all go through times where we're motivated and times when we're not. And what happens is, we lose a bit of motivation. And what I want to tell you is maybe it's your program. Maybe it's that you've lost track of what you're trying to accomplish in these 90 days. Maybe it's that you lost some weight and now you're feeling comfortable again, right? So let's talk about when we get sick. So let's say you've been losing weight like a boss, working out every day like a machine, and then you wake up one day and something just isn't right. This happened to me. Fast forward a couple hours and you have a full-blown cold from hell. The flu, you're nauseated, or you're visiting the restroom like it's the hottest new hangout spot in town. You're officially sick and you're not the only one. I've had a ton of questions lately about what to do when you're in the process of losing weight and you find yourself sick and feeling like absolute shite. Well, what are we going to do? Is it possible to stay on track with weight loss while you're sick? Well, yes, it is. The rule number one is just don't panic. When you're super motivated to lose weight and you're putting all the effort in and then you get sick, I mean, a lot of times we're to blame. We pushed it a little hard and that's why we got sick. In my case recently, both times I got sick, one time I got bit by a mosquito, had nothing to do with anything else. I got bit by a mosquito. It was carrying dengue fever, which is a virus, and it kicked my ass. Okay, bad. I could barely get out of bed. It was so terrible. It's really sucked. So this is going to happen, or you may get cold if it's flu season right now. So let's go over some things. Stop exercising until you feel better. Do not try to exercise when you're sick. Recovering from a cold, in other words, your immune system doing what it's supposed to do, costs your body energy. Recovering from exercise costs your body energy. You do both at the same time, you're going to smash your immune system. So stop exercising. Number 2 is focus on protein and vegetables and staying hydrated. And eat whole foods and check out week 3, my best food choice list. That's going to help you stay on track with the best food choices. Number 3 is stop stressing out because it's not going to help. In fact, do some meditation. I do meditation when I get sick, and it helps with the symptoms, except with dengue fever. Didn't really help with dengue fever. But I got a really bad flu in Miami last time I got the flu. And I used meditation. I even wrote about it as a way to boost your immune system. And it's not maybe that it's just relaxing. If you're stressing out, you're tense, your muscles, your body's tense, you're stressed. It just helps lower the stress. And if that's a problem, then it can help you. So let's talk about tracking your food problem. So it's easy to get results at the beginning. You probably noticed that, but it can be an issue later on. And I want to tell you this, the more fat you want to lose, the more fat you want to lose, the more meticulous you're going to have to be. For example, I was able to get down to 15% body fat fairly easily and really eating sloppily. Right, I wasn't paying that much attention at all. But to get below 15%, I was really struggling. I had to track my food. I had to do everything you're doing right now. And so when most people think about compliance, they only think whether they follow their allowed foods list, so food quality, and they pat themselves on the back for eating clean. But as you know, for fat loss, the real question is, how is your compliance to your calorie deficit? And, second of all, your protein. But number 1 is that calorie deficit. Too much healthy food is the cause of many fat loss plateaus. So again, ask yourself whether it's possible you underestimated your calorie intake or overestimated your activity level. Almost everyone reports eating fewer calories than they really do. It's one of the most well-known facts in weight loss research. And there was one that I want to share with you. This research team hypothesized that many people, overweight people, did not lose weight because their calorie intake was substantially higher than what they reported. The subjects were chosen specifically because they claimed history of diet resistance. In other words, they had made at least 8 attempts at weight loss in the past. They believed they were eating less than 1,200 calories a day, and many of them thought they had a metabolism or thyroid problem. The results were a big surprise to the subjects, but confirmed the hypothesis of the researchers. Under laboratory-controlled conditions, they found the study participants underestimated their food intake by a whopping 47% and overestimated how much activity they were doing by 51%. The authors concluded that failure to lose weight despite a self-reported low-calorie intake can be explained by substantial misreporting of food intake and low physical activity. And even health professionals are not immune to this either. There was a study on dietitians that showed that they underreported their intake by an average of 16%. So even people who've studied this and gone through you may not know, but dietitian training it's no joke. It's, they take a lot of the same classes that pre-med students take. So it's no joke. It's really difficult. Organic chemistry, biochemistry, and then they go through all these other classes specific to nutrition. And even then, they're not great with it. So keep that in mind. You've got to pay super duper extra attention if you are not making progress. And the major lesson here is to be sure you rule out the most common and obvious reasons for plateaus before making any assumptions. You may be simply eating more than you thought you were. And the plateau breaking lesson that naturally follows is that if you've been guesstimating food portions, it's time to get serious about your calorie and macronutrient numbers. So here's how to do it right. Get a digital scale and use it and weigh things out. And really do this for the majority of your meals. And now, of course, I'm not asking you to go to a restaurant and bring the scale with you, but you've got to, every time that you can, be on top of things. And one of the biggest problems with MyFitnessPal is that when you're feeling tired and you don't take the time to insert the correct amount of each item, you just kind of pick the first option that you see. But at the end of the day, you might have a 300 to 400 calorie error. That's the thing. You've got to take the time to do things right on MyFitnessPal. Another thing is measurement cups and spoons. Measure things out as best as you can. Sometimes we don't have a choice in how we measure food items. Like I said, you might be in a restaurant. You may be on a work vacation and you don't want to be the weirdo at the working lunch that starts measuring things out and weighing them. So what I want to tell you is when you're at a restaurant, you can ask the server how many ounces, how many cups. Also, I pay for extra pieces of protein. So I know I'll hit my protein intake. Another trick is that if I can't get a bigger piece of protein, I'll go home and hit my protein target with a whey protein shake or egg whites, Or before going to the restaurant, I'll have a protein shake. So I'm not worried about the amount of protein I'll eat, and I'll eat less because I already had the protein shake. So make sure you measure, you count, you track your food intake. If you find yourself guessing a lot and you're not making results, it's time to tighten things up. I also want to say this. Sometimes I'm a bit sloppy with MyFitnessPal myself, but here's the difference. I get results. I know how to tweak things, so I get results. And if I'm not getting results, I adjust things. I don't freak out. I'm not like at a loss of what to do. I just start adjusting things. So again, stop the guessing work and stop trying to remember what you have for breakfast. Do it as soon as you can and really take the time. I would also say this. A lot of people, when they're measuring at home, they don't think about, okay, that's half a cup of rice on my plate. They think about, I measured out the half a cup of rice. They don't think about, okay, let me kind of memorize what it looks like on a plate so that next time I'm in a restaurant, I can accurately determine how much I ate, more accurately determine how much I ate, even though I'm not going to measure it. Okay, so really start to get familiar at home. Take a mental picture of how much half a cup of noodles, half a cup of rice, whatever servings that you find yourself doing to fit your macros. Take a mental picture and take that mental picture with you to restaurants. I was having a talk about this with a client. You've got to take these mental pictures. You've got to get clear on what a tablespoon is, half a tablespoon, cup of rice, half a cup of rice. You got to you got to do this. It doesn't have to be so accurate, but you've got to get to the point where you know enough that, when you're in a position where you can't measure things, that you don't freak out or give up. I had one client who was telling me he just gives up. Oh, I don't have no idea how to put this in. I've got no idea how much is in this. And, take the time and figure it out. I know it's annoying and I know you don't want to do it. And you know what? I don't want to do it either. There's not a lot of, I've talked about this before. There's a big payoff from exercise. You go to the gym, you didn't want to do it, but after you're done exercising, you feel good. You're like, oh, wow, that was amazing. I feel so much better now that I exercise. Do you really feel better by pushing yourself to put things in MyFitnessPal? Maybe a tiny bit, but it is not like the payoff that you feel from going to the gym. However, this is the biggest payoff that you'll ever get for nutrition. It just happens later. So you've got to delay gratification a little bit and realize that compliance was your problem if you're not on top of how much you're actually eating. So again, map out your training and nutrition strategy for the next 7 days. If you hit a plateau, really get things right, create a plan, then go back to work with renewed motivation and enthusiasm. If you were tracking carefully and you know your compliance was spot on, then it's time to consider some of the other possible causes of your plateau, the biological ones. So I'm going to go over that now, but I just want you to understand this stuff because this is the stuff that stops people. It's why people don't believe in calories. But you all know differently now because you've gotten results from being in this program. So let's talk about this. Your body doesn't like to change. Every system in our body is tightly regulated to maintain something called homeostasis. So blood sugar, body temperature, acid-base balance are a few examples. And when the balance of your body is disturbed, your body sees that as a threat to your survival. So feedback mechanisms automatically kick in to bring you back to quote unquote normal. And your weight is no different. You adapt hormonally and metabolically to dieting and weight loss. And the more you restrict calories, the more weight you lose, the more your metabolism slows down. If all else is equal and you've remained compliant on your original plan, a plateau means that your body has adapted. So let's say you did everything right. With all the stuff that I just went over, you said, Ted, I'm doing that. I know how much half a cup of rice looks like on a plate. I know everything that you just said, and I'm still stuck in a plateau. Then this could be the reason your body has adapted. So by avoiding really strict starvation diets, in other words, you reduce the amount of adaptation and the frequency of plateaus. That's why you don't want to drop your calories too low. However, metabolic adaptation is unavoidable. It's what happens. And it's highly misunderstood as well. So your metabolism slows down for two reasons. And the first one is that smaller people burn fewer calories than larger people. So the more weight you lose and the lighter you get, the more your deficit shrinks, even at the same intake. So does that make sense to you? So a 200-pound person and a 150-pound person, they're going to need a different amount of food. That's why one-size-fits-all diets don't really work. But dialing in the amount of calories based, and I'm going to tell you, by the end of this program, you're going to learn how to do all this stuff yourself to some degree, okay? But understand that, because a lot of what we have heard or been told or thought is that big people have slower metabolisms than smaller people. But it's actually the reverse that's true. It takes work to be overweight. Fat burns 2 calories per pound. It costs energy to stay fat. And you simply cannot do it if you're not eating enough to stay fat. So, and when you lose fat, then you're going to need less and less food. One of the reasons why I focus so much on not dropping your weight so much and building muscle is because the bigger your body, the more food you can get away with eating. In fact, I had a coaching call with a client today, and I said my calorie deficit is 2,000. That's what I'm supposed to average, and hers is 1,400. But I'm 180 pounds, and I have kind of low body fat, so I've got a high amount of muscle on me. And so she's a little jealous, but we all have different body sizes. That's just how it is. And so that's probably why it's easier for a lot of men. Women say, oh, it's just easier. You have more testosterone or whatever. No, it's easier because they're probably bigger than you. And it's easier to eat less if you're 200 pounds. If you're 150 pounds, it's harder to eat less, right? I mean, you're going to need to eat less food. Even at the same muscle mass and same body fat percentage, you're going to need less food. And if you go over that, you're going to start to gain weight. Here's an example. Paul's a 40-year-old active male, 5 foot 8 inches tall and 235. If you run his numbers through the calorie formulas, the ones that I'm going to share with you later in the program, you'll see his maintenance level is about 3,200 calories per day. So with a 20% deficit, which is fairly conservative, he would want to eat 2,600 calories per day to lose weight. Suppose Paul successfully loses 50 pounds and becomes a lean 185 pounder, but then he wants to knock off that last 10 pounds so he can get ripped. Now that he weighs 185 pounds again, if you run his calorie calculations again, you'll see that the math equation has changed. He's a smaller guy now, so he needs less calories, fewer calories is the proper way to say it. So at 185 pounds, his maintenance level, in other words, what he needs to eat to maintain his body mass is 2,800 compared to the 3,200. Okay, we're not talking about the fat loss calories. We're talking about that part at the front, at the top rather, 3,200 to 2,800. He's burning 400 calories a day less than when he started, just sitting on his butt doing nothing. He's burning 400 calories per day less. If he keeps eating the same way he did when he was a bigger guy, he will hardly lose any weight because he just doesn't need that many calories to sustain his weight. Suppose Paul also forgets to account for measly 200 calories per day. Now his deficit's gone and his plateau has been fully explained. Now let me talk about the second part, which is adaptive thermogenesis. This means that when you restrict your calories and lose weight, your metabolism slows down even more than you'd predict from the weight loss alone. So first we talked about bigger bodies require more calories than smaller bodies. Now we're going to talk about something different. This is a bit more complex, and it happens through weight regulating mechanisms involving numerous hormones and body systems becoming more efficient. It's similar to how the thermostat in your home turns on when the temperature drops. You have the temperature set at a nice, comfortable level, and when the temperature regulation system detects a drop below that point, it automatically turns on the heat to bring the temperature back up. Or turns on since we're going into winter right now, I'll just go with that example. But if your weight regulating system detects a change in body weight below its usual set point, the metabolic thermostat turns the calorie burning hormones down and the hunger hormones up. Your body becomes more efficient and burns fewer calories while simultaneously tricking you into eating more. This is complex stuff that stopped you from starving to death. Okay? It stopped you from starving to death. This is not something to hate or to be angry at. It is how you are here today. It is how human civilization came to be, because if it didn't do this, then the majority of us, our ancestors, not us, but our ancestors was starved to death. But here we are in the modern world where you can click on Uber Eats, sitting on your butt, not even having to do anything and get food delivered right to your door. You can order food from Amazon Fresh. You don't have to do anything to get food. Whereas in the past, we had to hunt for food. We had to, be farmers. Understand, this is what the stuff that saved our lives. So with fewer calories out and more calories coming in, your calorie deficit shrinks, your weight loss, your fat loss slows down, and eventually you reach a plateau. Although the weight regulating mechanism that causes hunger metabolism to slow down and causes metabolism to slow down and hunger to go up is kind of complex, you should see by now that it's a pretty simple sort of thing. If you were losing weight, but your weight loss has stopped, you had a calorie deficit, but now you've lost it. You're not in a calorie deficit if you're not losing weight. Let's talk about some psychological and behavioral reasons. In the majority of cases, thyroid issues, which thyroid, everybody talks about hormones and metabolic rate. Thyroid hormone is the only hormone that directly regulates your metabolic rate. But most people don't have a slow thyroid. Also, slow metabolism is not a thing. It's the lack of compliance, all right? Stated differently, you didn't follow your plan close enough and you may not have realized it. And so your goal is to see some kind of positive result every week. If you're getting no results after 7 days, before considering a change, the first thing to do is to check your compliance to your current plan. Now, we talked about that a bit, but I want to revisit it and ask you to ask yourself, honestly, have you been doing everything you need to do, or are you missing something? Have you done your best, or could you have given it a little bit more? Have you been consistent in your nutrition tracking and hitting your macro goals every day, or at least getting close? And eating well one day, are you doing a great job all week then blowing it on the weekends? The cause of your plateau may be uncovered with the answers to these simple questions. When you're rating yourself for compliance, remember, rate yourself in all 4 areas. Mental training. Do you have a current set of updated goals in writing? If you don't, make sure, revisit the heaven and hell exercise. Do it again. Print it out. If you want me to send it to you, I can email it to you. Just ask me. Have it around you so that you can remember why you're doing this, what you're moving away from, and more importantly, what you're moving towards. Cardio training. Have you been following your customized cardio program consistently? Now, I won't start you out with cardio, but eventually we start adding in some cardio, either moderate intensity training or high intensity training, depending on your injuries and situation and all that. Resistance training. How many resistance workouts did you do? And are you applying progressive overload week by week? And then nutrition. Have you hit your macro targets every day to the best of your ability? Now, I'll tell you, I've been off this week with my macro targets. I've been under eating protein. I've changed locations. That's normal. It's natural. Things happen. So what I did was I found a solution. I needed to go food shopping. I haven't done that yet. I'll be honest with you, but I got some protein. I got a big 5-pound tub of protein powder to help me make up the lack of protein that I'm eating. And that is it.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. We're going to continue next week with part 2, where I'm going to reveal more strategies for you on how to break through plateaus and finally create the body you've always wanted. But until then, we're going to meet on Friday, where I'm going to answer another listener's question with a special Ask Ted episode. So have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you then.